Hey everybody, this is Greg Petix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at The Adventures of Oat Willie, the most thoughtful guy in the world, Volume 1, Number 1. Pretty sure there's no Volume 1, Number 2 of this. It's from 1987, and this comic is very strange to me. I looked up on the internet trying to figure out just what this was. The Comics Joint Underground site doesn't even list it because it's 1987, so it's past the purview of their underground research. First of all, why this is strange to me, it's Oat Willie. He's the Gilbert Shelton character that would pop up in rip-off press comics, rip-off comics sometimes. Just this goofy little character he has, whose characteristics are he wears like a Lucky Lindy flight helmet, wears polka dot underwear, boxer shorts, and he's constantly in this bucket of oats with wheels. That's how he gets around. Very surreal, goofy figure. But here's what's weird about this. Okay, so this, almost all of Gilbert Shelton's stuff comes out under his own comics company, Rip-Off Press. This is Ostentatious Comics, and it does have a Gilbert Shelton cover, and this is a really nice cover. Like, Gilbert Shelton at this point had already been in France for a while. And just look at these backgrounds. This is like, he's definitely picked up some tricks in France. And just the way he draws, like, you wouldn't guess that was Gilbert Shelton. It's very different and interesting. Just really nice cover, nice colors. So let's crack this open and maybe we'll solve the mystery together. So, Ostentatious Ink is from Austin, Texas. That's the pun. There's an inside front cover here, and it's by Carry On, and it shows Oat Willie in his underground basement tree house, where there's a little door to his tree, and he lives underground with all the luxuries. He's got a stereo TV. But this is very out of character because he's out of his oat bucket. And we'll find out soon that that can never happen or should never happen. But a nice little cartoon here. We have the origin of Oat Willie. And you know, this character had been around for 25 years already. And nobody knows where he came from. So we're at this head shop in Austin, Texas called Oat Willie. And this is a real place. Oat Willie is a kind of successful head shop chain in the Austin area. And the main one is called the Campaign Headquarters of Oat Willie. And we'll find out why soon later. So all these people are at the head shop. It looks like one of the Freak Brothers is at the counter there. And they're all saying, who the heck is Oat Willie? And now for the first time anywhere, his story can be told. This is written by Marianne Wizard and drawn by Jaxon. Jaxon, which is very strange because it's he's really got a flair for cartoony, fun, humorous art. You'd never know because Jaxon usually draws historical fiction. Now he used to draw horror, science fiction, all kinds of stuff. But basically, he's dedicated his life to doing historical fiction and you know, very serious stuff. But this is some really nice, funny cartooning. It's kind of a shame that Jaxon doesn't do more. So we find out that there was this, in the mid-1800s, there were migratory waves of Europeans coming to Texas. Among them were settlers from the tiny Middle European duchy of Lowenstein, bringing their peculiar old world superstitions and silly-looking national costumes. So they like polka dots a lot in this culture. And they're always just spouting these weird little proverbs. So they set up in the Pecos River region, start sowing their renowned Lowenstein oats on their land. And they become very successful. The town grows. And then in 1944, a son was born to third-generation Texans, Wet and Wilma Willie, these two. They named the boy Overly Thoughtful, but everyone just called him OT. And yeah, that's some really nice, funny cartooning. So these guys are Lowenstein people. And he grows up very happy, living in this bucolic setting. But then there's a disaster, the Great Texas Drought of the 50s. So they moved to Houston. His father lives up to his name wet by becoming a drunk. The mother tries to make money the only way she can. She sells matches. And so Willie grows up in this strange new place. And he has trouble adapting to his new environment. Everyone thinks he's a geek. He kind of is a geek. So when Sputnik happens, he becomes a science nerd. Like a lot of kids in America, America was really pushing science so we could beat the Ruskies. So he goes to the University of Texas in Austin, and here he meets Joe E. Brown and Gilbert Shelton. And those guys, you know, in real life were there at U of T, and they were already doing humor magazines in which they created Oat Willie. And Oat Willie gets into politics. He really likes JFK. And so one day he's in the lab at college, and he's doing a critical experiment with oat seeds. And all of a sudden he hears that JFK's been shot, so it distracts him. So he hits this knob on accident, and radioactive elements irradiate this bucket of oats. So he doesn't know that, so he gets in the oats to do, to squish them up. This is the traditional Lowenstein way, just like Italian women make wine out of grapes in Italy. So there's this crazy reaction with all these zany sound effects. And they take him to the hospital, and they tell his parents that he's permanently stuck in this bucket of oats. He lost his hair, which is kind of funny because he only had that was his hair, one hair. And so they give him one of the grandpa's aviator hat. He had it from World War II, the big World War. They give him that to cover his bald pate. And they do experiments on him. And he's I guess he's got some strange radiation, but, you know, he's fine. So he kind of becomes a local hero due to his ordeal. And everyone starts calling him Oat Willie then. Instead of O.T. Willie, they just make it Oat Willie. And he goes on a trip. And in the Deep South, he was refused service at a drugstore lunch counter, inspiring a massive sit-in. And they're just want to kick him out because he's not wearing a shirt. No shoes, no shirt. No shirt, no service. In Wisconsin, he picks apples alongside migrant workers from the Rio Grande Valley. And in New Mexico, he joins a commune. So he's kind of experiencing all the, like, you know, countercultural thing of the 60s. But then he ends up in San Francisco, just in time to have the, you know, to experience the summer of love. Takes LSD for the first time. And this is interesting. I don't know if this is, you know, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it is the late 80s, and they actually have this warning to readers from your responsible editors saying, now in the enlightened 80s, everyone knows that LSD can definitely turn your brain to moldy cheese. Don't say we didn't tell you. So it obviously is tongue-in-cheek, but it's also like, why would you even put that in there? A real underground would never do that. So this is a different thing. This is not your average underground. And maybe it's not an underground at all, even though it's got all these underground artists. So, for some reason, he sees a postcard of the Statue of Liberty and realizes he has to go to New York City and see it. And the day he gets there, it was blanketed with the thickest fog in recorded history. And there's traffic jams everywhere. People can't even get through it. This is a really nice panel here, showing Jackson's mastery of drawing. He's going up the spiral staircase to the top of the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty gives Oat Willie her torch. And she's like, yeah, I've been wanting to get rid of this for a while. It's been a pain in the ass holding this up all the time. So he basically leads all the people stuck in traffic jams through the fog with his torch. Onward through the fog. I guess that's like an expression that Oat Willie would always say, because Oat Willie would just say kind of non sequiturs. And this is like explaining where that comes from. So this comic is this goofy, just trying to explain everything that Oat Willie does, giving it a backstory. So when he gets, finally in New York City, he hooks up with Gilbert Shelton and Joey Bell again. And then they travel back to Austin and open a head shop and Oat Willie's. So this is the, you know, fictionalized story of how Oat Willie's head shop started. We have a lot of reprints in here from like really early days, like this is before the Undergrounds. This is like 62, 63, 64. When Gilbert Shelton and Joey Bell were, you know, working on the humor magazine at the University of Texas at Austin. And it's all like very of its time political humor. But Oat Willie, they have even had a character then, you know, named Oat Willie. It's Oat Willie, but he looks very different. He's drawn very different. Because Gilbert Shelton was a different artist at that time. And we see another old reprint. And this is more about local politics where Oat Willie decides he's going to run for governor. And we even see a cameo of Wonder Warthog. So these are all from The Rag, which I guess was the humor magazine or the newspaper from the Austin College. And then there's an interview with Oat Willie, you know, obviously a fake interview. And this is from The Rag from 1968. And, you know, he's running for office, running for president, and this guy's interviewing about his, you know, his campaign contributions and to have a slogan. I don't know about that. We have this weird comic. I don't know what this has to do with the rest of the comic. Nunzio. And Nunzio's this middle-aged guy, and he was a hippie, though. They both were hippies, Nunzio and his wife. So he's got all these high times in the garage, and, you know, the wife wants him to clean them out so the kids don't find them. But he's reminiscing about when he was young, and he was a narc, but he was a, you know, the good old days of action and adventure. He kind of liked being a narc. So it shows this flashback where, you know, he's on this mission in Mexico. He gets turned into a bale of marijuana and gets shot, ends up in jail in Mexico. So then he finishes his flashback, his reminiscence, and his kids are looking at all his old porn magazines, and he's just oblivious, doesn't care. But then he's got to go to his son's Little League game, where I think he's the assistant coach. And then this guy shows up and he says, Agent 13, I have a proposition. You'll come out of retirement, you'll get full pay and a gun again. So he's been, you know, bored. He's been itching to get back in the game. So he becomes a narc again, a middle-aged narc. And he goes to see Oat Willie. And Oat Willie lives in this huge business building. They're making it seem like Oat Willie's is this corporation. And he confronts Oat Willie, and he's trying to basically get him on a drug charge. He's like, hey, man, you got any stuff? You got any drugs? And Oat Willie's like, dude, we don't do that shit. And he opens this little chute, and he ends up in the basement with these terrorists are going to kill him. To be continued. This next one is really nice cartooning. I really like this one. Oat Willie's Midlife Crisis. Once again, the wizard, what was her name? Marianne? I never heard of her before. Yeah, Marianne Wizard and Jaxon drawing. So it's just, he's having a midlife crisis. Time is passing me by. All the clocks are walking past him. I'm just going around in circles. And he doesn't understand his kids. He's turning into his father. He's wondering whatever happened to all of his old hippie dreams of a just and, you know, good planet. And so he says to himself, I know, I'll call God Knows. He knows the score. So God Knows, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if they ever met before, but God Knows was Jack Jackson's first underground comic in, like, I believe, like something like 1964, way before there was undergrounds. He put this out. A lot of people consider it the first underground. And it's very different from what Jack Jackson became. It's very, like, humorous, kind of gag strips about God. So he calls up the angels. I mean, the angels leave a message for him, the answering machine message. But then he gets through to God finally. And he's basically giving God shit. He's like, man, what the hell are you doing up there? The Earth is going to shit. They're burning down the rainforest. There's a hole in the ozone. People are starving. And God knows, takes it in stride and says, oh, I see, getting a little uptight about mortality. And he's basically just this mellow dude. He's like, oh, man, give yourself a favor. You know, do yourself a favor and lighten up. He's like, but you're in control of the situation. Can't you do something? And so God basically says, do your part. Just do your part. And he says, do my part. What part? I'm just a character in a comic book. You got it, babe, in your very own comic book, right? Well, that means I could write the storyline myself, doesn't it? And Oat Willie's sitting down, writing all these comics of, you know, what he would love. Basically changing reality. Oat Willie runs for president. Oat Willie's orgasm. Oat Willie stops World War III and feeds world's hungry. And God knows says, yep, you're right. This is your life we're talking about. And this is it's a very goofy, silly strip, but I don't know, it kind of hit me, what he's saying here. It's like, yeah, we're not cartoon characters, but I guess we can all write ourselves the storyline that we want. I mean, of course we can't. Things get in the way, but you can try. So I don't know, I kind of thought this was a little inspirational and kind of deep, even though it's just a lot of funny humor. But man, I love this Jaxon, you know, funny cartooning. He's so good at it. I could read hundreds of pages of this stuff. And here we have Sea Loving. That's the artist. Words L. Atkins. And this is Oat Willie's fight song, which is a takeoff on Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but it's got different lines. Feed me some beer and some LSD. I don't care if it does set me free. Very goofy and not well drawn. I think this is the same guy who did that Nunzio comic. Here's an ad for all the Oat Willie's merchandise. And on this back cover, man, this ad, look at that. That is some slick graphic design. And onward through the 80s, Oat Willie's, and it shows their 3 locations. And this is by Michael Priest, who, it doesn't even list him in the copyright in the inside front cover. I never heard of him, but man, he knows his business. It shows Oat Willie in this futuristic city. So this comic is very confusing to me. I think, and you know, it's very clean, as we've noticed. It's a pretty clean comic, no nudity. So I almost think that Ostentatious Comics was set up to advertise Oat Willie's. Like this was just another product they could sell through their mail order and now on their website to get more people to come to Oat Willie's head shop. But I don't know. It's very strange. Definitely late in the game for an underground, 87. So I don't even know if technically you could call it an underground, but all the creators are underground creators, so I'm going to consider it underground. Just a very odd one. So that's it for the Adventures of Oat Willie. I hope you enjoyed it. And if anyone has any information about the creation of this comic, please send me some information in the comments. Because I would love to actually know how the hell this comic came about and what their purpose was. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.